All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen, to another open live Q&A. In this one, I will get to your questions, but I also want to talk to you about three things that really bother me every single time they are said to me. It's one of those things that if it's not just through going through education or my time as a teacher or whenever I'm just kind of having like maybe an informal conversation with people, it kind of seems like these three statements always populate up. And what I want to do is kind of tell you why they bother me and what it is about them that, or I guess that's why they, kind of bother me and where they kind of like come from and why I think that they provide an issue with how we look at and approach mathematics. And then just like my other Q&A videos or live streams, I will get to your guys' questions. I'll get to as many of them as I possibly can. So if you do have a question, then feel free to go ahead and put it down in the chat and I will get to them. So I'll kind of go through what bothers me in those three little things to kind of start off, and then I'll just go into those questions. So if you have a question, post it in there. If you have a math question, then go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. Not this week, but possibly, well, maybe even this week, I might be able to get to it. I got to see back on my schedule from there, but let me actually go ahead and put on my link that I have that you guys can go ahead and post those questions, and I will be getting to them, all of them, not, I can't do all the math questions, but I try to do it. But anytime that you have a math question, I always recommend that you don't put it inside the chat because it's a lot more difficult for me to be able to do math questions like from a chat and try to decipher what exactly you're asking. So I always ask, if you have a math question, then go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A and I will answer your questions there. I'm actually going to answer it on a different math channel, which is going to be my free math videos math channel, which if you have not checked out before and you want to go and see, that's not the right one, but let me actually, I don't even have the link. It's actually in the description. Let me actually go ahead and verify before that I made that in there. I'm pretty sure it's in the description. I'll put it inside the chat for those of you that are interested. It's just basically has a wide variety of my math thing. So I'll put the link inside here because I don't know why I don't have a handle on it or a good handle. So I'll go ahead and add it into the chat for you guys. And then we will get going on the rest of your guys' questions. Come on, don't be taking so long. Paste. There we go. All right. And yeah, I won't put that in there. So awesome. Well, hey, Goat 9383. Good to have you on. Shiny Ace. Happy to have you. Alvin. Hello. And Poop. You got to give me your own math classes. You are very welcome. Banana, so I get a clever math. I will get through those questions. Yeah, okay, I can see it. How to do long division. I will talk about those. But if you have a specific math question on long division, then go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. And that will be the easiest way for me to be able to answer that question. Okay. Or anything specific on that. So let's go ahead and talk about the three things that really, really, really just bother me. And the first one I'll go from you is going from when students. And this one happened to me all the time when I was a teacher, but I would say that it became much more prevalent later on in my teaching years. It wasn't as big in the beginning of the year. And the simple statement is like, I need this grade. And I get it. I know that grades are important. Grades are important to myself. I, as a father, like want my daughters to do well in their classes. I want them to take their grades seriously. Grades are important. However, I found a lot of students were just fixated on grades. That's literally all they cared about. And the problem that I have with that statement, like, I need this grade, is it totally avoids what you're capable of or what that grade actually represents. And what I found was a lot of students that would say that they didn't care about what they were learning. They didn't care about what they could do. They just wanted the grade. It's like they just wanted that badge of honor that said, that they got this grade. And I get it to a point. Like, you have scholarships, you're trying to get into colleges, like they mean something, right? So like grades are important. But there's also this subset of me of like, we've trained our students for so long to only focus on the grades of being so important. And if students aren't learning and they're just focusing on the grades, they're just doing whatever they need to do to get by, just to focus on the grades, we're creating this society that is unable to actually, do rather than just, have that grade. And what I mean by that is like, when you go into the real world and you go into college, like it doesn't matter what the grade is. It just matters what is it you are able to do? What are you capable of doing? And that's why I think it's important. Like, if I give you a grade A, like, I remember there would be times I'd have conversations with students and they're like, I need this grade. I need this grade. And I'm like, we look at their grade, we look at all the opportunities I provided to them to be able to improve their grade, to fix their grade and everything like that. And I'm like, you've done everything I've asked you to do. Here's your test. You've done these retakes and everything else. Like, this is the grade that you deserve. And, I would always, I'll take criticism of, like, how equitable is your grade and your grading policy and everything like that. But one of the most important things that I always wanted to rely on as a teacher was that my grading scale was fair for my students. And that's something I really, really held very, very important to be as a teacher, because I wanted that grade to reflect their understanding, not just if they're able to do what I'm asking them to do. And I remember there was a lot of times I'd tell students, like, you want an A? Like, I'll just give you an A. Like, but what does it mean if I just give you an A if you have a D level of knowledge? Like, you have to be able to do, not just get. And because eventually the rubber's gonna hit the road. They're like, wow, you have A's all throughout your whole life. And they'll hire you, and get a job. And they're like, wow, this person can't do what they're supposed to be able to do. The grades are meaningless. And that's why I think it's so important. We've had so much grade inflation where, people just are so fixated on grades, and there's so much pressure on teachers and students to get the best of the best grades that, a lot of times we were like, all right, well, we're just going to give them the grade and just make it easier for students to get better and better grades. And we don't have this correlation. It's kind of, I guess I'd almost put it to, like, when the US dollar went off the gold standard. Like, we have a very limited correlation between what the students know in relation to that grade. And of course, this is not with all students. This is not with all teachers. This is not all districts. But I have definitely seen a reduction in that correlation with the stress and the focus of just on grades. And so whenever you think about, like, I need this grade, I just really, just important things is, like, I always tell students, like, do the best you can do, and do the best you can do, put in your work, and move, um and then move on from it. Like, the grade is just a data point. That's all it is. We use it. They're very, very important. And I'm not for going against grades or anything like that, but it's like, what's most important is what you're able to do, not what is that grade that's on your marker, So, that one just, really irked me, because I know once students started talking about that, I lost them as far as them caring about their education. They're caring about what they could actually learn, in the class, and what they could able to do. They were just fixated on the grade and move on. And I don't want to lose students with the education process. I want them to focus on learning and becoming a better version of themselves as their time within me on the classroom. But the next thing comes in from a lot of times where students are influenced, and that's come from their parents. And if there's one thing that I've probably found, that I've seen students that struggle with math being told more and more often, and it usually comes from their parents, is that I'm just not good at math. I was never good at math. Like, my mom, my dad, they're not math people. They can't help me out. Math just doesn't run in our family. Like, we're not math people. And I hate hearing that. And I get it. There's some people that have a natural tendency to be better at mathematics than other people. However, whenever you say that, whenever you think that, all you're simply doing is shutting down your brain for improvement. You're giving yourself an excuse not to do the best that you can possibly do. Because here's the thing. While we have our natural talents innate with us, there's always more and more that we can get better at. And I think it's a ridiculous assumption to assume that just because math might not come a little bit natural to us in our stages, or that we have previously struggled in math, that is what our destiny is supposed to be as a struggling math student. And the best example, if I can think about that, is, when we're learning to walk. I've had 3 daughters that we've gone through there. And, I remember, like, my first daughter, I have no idea what to do as a parent, but I just know, like, at 2 years old, they should be walking. And, if they're not walking by 2 years old, you're starting to freak out. You're like, oh man, like, what's going on? Are they delayed, like, in their improvement and stuff like that? And it's like, and some children learn to walk early. Some children, learn to walk late. But I think it's, I think it's crazy to say, like, oh, just because a child can't walk, they're not a good walker, or they're not a good learner, they're never going to learn how to walk. No, as a parent, we're constantly just trying to encourage our children to learn to walk. Like they are going to learn to walk. We're not just saying, oh, they're not a walking type of kid and just give up on them. And I feel like whenever you say like, oh, we're just not good math people, like math we're not good at, that's exactly what you're doing. That you're just shutting down that ability that you can actually go ahead and improve and you can go and do the math. And I think the most important thing that our students need is encouragement. Like, yes, math is hard. Like, there are struggles, but that is a part of the learning process. And part of the problem where I think people feel like they just go to math is because they don't learn at the same level of somebody else. But the same thing, we don't learn to walk, we don't learn to talk at the same level. Like it's completely normal. And the only problem is in our grading system, we have grades due at the fourth quarter. Like we have to assign a grade. And it's just like if we had to assign a grade at 2 years old, some students would get A's, some students would get F's. If we gave them a grade on how their ability is to walk, right? We would, because some would be able to do it and some would still be crawling. But that doesn't mean they can't still be successful walking. Of course not. Mathematics is the exact same thing. Sometimes it's not that you're bad at math, it's just that you need more time to be able to and be able to complete the information. That is completely normal. It's our educational system of how we have like prioritized or focused in on these data points at these certain points, and then we just write them off. Like, oh, you didn't learn this exactly this fourth quarter of your sophomore year. Okay, like that's your grade, and it's like, yes, we have to be able to assign grades at certain points from that grade, but like that is not a grade that's going to define you of what you're capable at. Just because you have struggled, just because it takes you twice as long to do something does not mean you are not good at it or that you cannot become better at it. And by saying that you're not good at math or that you're not math people or hearing that is is not going to help your case. But I get it because math instruction can be pretty boring a lot of times. And the last thing that I absolutely hate, and this one usually comes from just talking to people about math, about what I do, is they always say like, oh yeah, like you seem like a fun math teacher. Like you probably make math more fun. Like I wish my math teacher, was like that. Like we need more fun math teachers or teachers that can teach like math, like relatable to real life. And I hate that. I really, really, really do. I hate that. And the reason why I hate that is because I've gone through the struggles of math and I've taught math where, I've had my administrators come in and we've revised like lessons and created things that were fun and like they're relatable to real life and stuff. And I think it misses the point. I'm not advocating to going back, 50 to 100 years and teaching. Oh no. I think I'm still alive. I don't know where that air came from. But I'm not advocating teaching math where it's boring and just rote memorization and all that kind of stuff. Because I think the best teachers always bring their lessons to life. They're always able to make those connections for students to like make those light bulbs click. And but I think a lot of the problems, or at least the tide has kind of turned where it's like everything needs to be relatable to real life and everything needs to be fun. And the reason why I think that's a problem is like one, math is very, very complex, very, very complex. And it's a struggle. It's, learning is hard. It's not supposed to everything be easy and relatable and fun. Like there's, there's a challenge that you have to be able to go to really get the fruit of all of that labor. It's just, and I think sometimes we just, by trying to make everything relatable and fun, like it's like a way to like bypass that. But I think that you're going to get the most out of those math classes, of your learning, of your, self-discovery. If you can go through those hurdles and go through those struggles. And not to say it doesn't need to be relatable. Like, yeah, like I said, the best teachers are going to be able to bring lessons to life, but not everything needs to be a real life scenario, from that. And because sometimes that just creates math problems that are just really weird and they don't really give us the full concept of what we need to be learning and how we need to be, learning the information. And the same thing, like having it being fun and everything else, like, yeah, of course, like we don't want to be going back to just boring lectures, one person teaching, and then you do 100 math problems, whatever else. But like, I don't think the major goal of math class needs to be that it needs to be fun. I want people to be able to challenge and see the beauty of mathematics. And if we're focusing on just making things relatable and fun, I think we dilute the beauty and the struggle of that you have to go through to purely get the most benefit out of mathematics. So that's where those three things came up to me. I'm sure there's some more. If there's some things that you, maybe as a teacher, a parent, or a student, have heard that you don't really like, let me know down in the comments down below. I'm about to get in now into those comments, and I'm here to answer your guys' questions. So if you have any other math questions or any questions related to this or your own personal situation, then put them down in the chat. I'm about to get to them all. If you have any math questions, you're like, hey, can you help me out with this problem? I do go live on my other channel, my free math videos channel. That's where I'll be doing a lot of those math problems, but you can submit them. I'll post them in there. I actually put my link in the chat. So, and actually I'll pin that for you guys. So if you guys want to go over to that channel, therefore you can put on like notifications, and that will notify you of when I go live. And so I'll notify you when I go live, and then you can go and see your problems that you submit. All right, let's get into your guys' questions now. Do you know how to do long division? If you know, do it. I do, but it's really bit hard for me to do long division. Or just explaining it from on there. So if you have a math problem, it's a much easier for me to be able to go through exactly the steps. So go ahead and submit that at brianmclogan.com/Q&A. Make it a little bit bigger. I want to say helpful here during my online math. Well, awesome. And kudos to you for doing online math. I don't think I could have been able to do online math. I really don't. I was that student that had to be inside the classroom like multiple times a day to be able to like really digest that information. So, I love online learning. And I love, I know a lot of you, that's why you know me, is from watching me and learning some online. But I don't think it's like the answer to our problems or our solution or the solutions to our problems in education. But I do think it's immensely beneficial to helping students learn. So, but kudos to you for going through it. I'm so happy to help you out. Help you out. I need a graph with health. Well, go ahead and submit that into brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll be happy to help you out. You are very welcome. I can do fractions. Go and submit them to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll get you. I can, but I also have tons of videos on the ambiguous case. So if you go to my channel, then you can go and check that out, and you'll see I have a ton of examples of the ambiguous case from on there. Well, I'm right here. Where have you been? I haven't stopped uploading like every single day, so I'm here. I taught high school for 14 years, so I never taught college. The truth is, if I need your videos, my teacher's ability to teach is lackluster. I try not to fixate myself on grades, but when my teacher isn't teaching me well enough, my grades take a hit. Yeah, of course. I'm not saying grades aren't important at all, like by any means. And I think it's really important to have grades as like even a motivation to do well. I think the effect of what I was saying with grades is like when students just care about the grades, they don't care about like the learning that is being behind those grades. Then all we're doing is creating people that have a whole bunch of grades and an ability to no understanding. They don't even know what they did or doing, and they can't apply that or anything. They just have high grades, and that's not a recipe for success. You are very welcome. I am in the Science and Mathematics University, so I need to, well, I have a lot of videos for you. Quick question. Before entering pre-calculus, what should I know beforehand? I mean, I always taught pre-calculus from a standpoint of even if you struggled in algebra 2, like I am going to take you from algebra 2 into pre-calculus. But then again, like I think a lot of the algebra is like very, very important. So I think if you can have a really basic of like knowing how to graph functions, graph lines, if you know how to do factoring, that's extremely important. Having a little understanding of the unit circle is helpful, but I always taught the unit circle from the very, very beginning. But I would say mostly just graphing, knowing your functions, those basic functions from algebra 2, knowing how to graph them, knowing how to solve them. and know how to factor, simplify expressions using the rules of exponents, simplifying rational expressions and factoring. I think that will give you a good foundation before you get to pre-calculus. Tips for algebra 2. I mean, I don't know what you mean for tips. I mean, are you in algebra 2? Are you starting algebra 2? Do you have an exam coming up? Like, what are you looking for in that? Would you have any advice for anyone with learning disabilities like me? I'm a current geology major and excel in sciences, but math was never my strength. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if your disability is like dyscalculia, or if you have something, more pronounced. I mean, obviously it comes into knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, and knowing what you can do from there, and like leaning into that. Cause we all have a, we all have strengths and weaknesses, right? And so I think it just kind of comes into like understanding where you're at and what you're going to need maybe more time with, and adjusting, from that. So if you know on your disability how that's going to be impacting your strengths and weaknesses, like then you can lean into how to better prepare for tests and how to study and stuff like that. I don't obviously have enough information on this to give you like direct advice, but I think getting a support system is extremely important, especially if you know, if you're struggling with math, having people around you that can help you with the studying process and the learning process outside of just one teacher, I think is critically helpful to be able to give you a better understanding of what you're doing, and also to keep you kind of motivated throughout the year. Cause it can be, stressful and lonely if you're just trying to do everything by yourself. So that's one thing I'd recommend off the get go. Practice doing as many examples as you can. I had a student today that I was helping, and her teacher only gave her one example of rectangular polar. I'm like, this is all you gave? This is all they gave? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, I can teach you how to do this problem, but I'm like, there's a lot of different solving techniques for converting from rectangular to factoring. So I like pulled up my notes from pre-calculus. I'm like, here, look at these, and there's like I think 7 different examples, and because it's all different. And I think with limits, it's the same thing in calculus. Like the more examples you can do, just the better prepared and better your understanding you're going to have. Cause it's the same idea, like goal, but it's just you're accomplishing it in different ways. And that's why doing multiple different examples is helpful. Yes, I don't think I recorded those lessons when I taught pre-calculus. I did them, but I don't think I recorded them, unfortunately. So yes, I do not have any disk or washer method problems. Sorry about that. Well, hey, Quizum. Hello. It's my first time catching you live. I just want to drop by and say thank you for helping me. Your videos have been a big help, especially now that we are more calculus. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for dropping in. I'm happy to be able to help you out. I have a college algebra midterm to exam tomorrow. I'm studying but scared. You got this. You gotta be positive. Of course you can be scared. Of course you can be stressed out, but breathe, relax, keep on practicing some problems, study hard, like go through everything, and just do the best you can do. Again, it's a grade. It's not going to define you, your life, or what you're capable of. Do the best you can. Work hard, study hard, breathe, relax, and you got this. Mr. Dice Zach. I believe anyone can learn math, comprehend math at their own pace. The point is anyone can learn how to do it. Exactly. Tips for Algebra 2 honors. I mean, I don't know. This is a very common question. Students are always asking me tips for their class. I don't know if I have like specific tips over like one class over another. It's always usually the same thing I say over and over again. Do the work which your students, your teachers ask you. And if you start to struggle, ask questions and get help. Like, I guess maybe it's like what to look for, those kind of tips, or like what to make sure you know. I guess I'll have to do a little bit more deeper dive and look into kind of those things. And maybe I'll probably make a video on that. But that'll probably something I'll have to go back through my notes and my work, and I'll probably come up with something, maybe in like a video format for you to feel good. And actually, yeah, so that you are better prepared for Algebra 2 or know what to expect and stuff like that. That's a good idea, actually. I'll make that tips for Algebra 2. Thank you for that. At first I was like, I don't even know what to answer on this one. But yeah, you know what? I'm going to go through this. Thank you. Just for interval notation, actually I do have tips for this, is to graph it. A lot of students struggle with interval notation. So graph it and then just do the interval section by section. I'll actually make a video for that. I like that. So I'm going to write that one down too. Should I skip pre-calc because I'm taking the test next week and I have to still study trigonometric functions in the unit circle? I mean, I don't know why. What do you mean skip pre-calc? Like maybe redo it? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Like you don't want to skip it unless you have already a strong understanding for it. But, I don't know. Let me know a little bit more in the chat. I'll get to you. Taking calculus for the first time. Been out of school for 10 years. I've never taken any calc related. It's a toughie. My algebra skills suck, but your videos have been such a great help. Well, awesome. I got calc videos as well to hopefully supplement that instruction. So keep it up. You got this. I've never taught the IGCSE, so I'd have to go and look more into it to try to see what information I could apply or provide to you guys on that. So sorry, apologies for that. I don't have anything though for you. Hi, Amy. Sure. All right. Thank you. Here. There's a lack of curiosity in my generation that fuels that. Tell me the steps so I can get the grades and ignores the reason behind what they're learning. Yeah, I mean, that's not like something new. I mean, I think my parents' generation were saying the same thing about my generation, right? So, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking or a huge shift, but I do think it is something culturally that we have allowed to kind of expand, and grow through on there. And yeah, it's, you're seeing it kind of compound and you're seeing the effects of this type of thinking in our workforce, right? Like people can't, like people can't get jobs. They have like a college degree and like now jobs are like, we don't really care about even like the college degree. It's like, show us what you can do. Like we want to know, like, can you analytically think? Like, can you apply? Like, that's the most important thing. Like, we don't care about your ACT, SAT scores, your grades, your degree. Like we want to make sure that you can do what you can do. And that's what we need for you. Right. And so, you're starting to see those effects. And I think just we've pushed grades and degrees. And again, I'm not against college education by any means, but I think we've just pushed it so far for so many students that, yeah, we've kind of created the scenario where students are just focused on that and they don't care about what is the actual learning and what they can able to do. And we're starting to get some of those repercussions. I have a chapter test in my online college algebra class. Wish me luck. You got this. Best of luck. In your opinion, calculus is hard? Yeah. I plan on studying calculus in college. I'm still in high school, so I want to learn calculus, but I'm still not sure. I would go for it. I like calculus is hard, but it's not like, I don't want to use the thing like rocket science. Like it's not like anybody can't learn it. Like if you have a fundamental, decent understanding of mathematics that you've learned in your high school curriculum, like algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry, pure calculus, like you can do calculus. Obviously it kind of depends on the track that you're taking calculus. Like there's going to be, different calculus for like math majors rather than like a general college calculus course. But you can definitely do it. Just surround yourself with people that can help you out, support you there, when you have questions or you start to struggle. But calculus kind of takes this rap of some like crazy course that's like only the best of the best, the smartest can understand. And like, that's not it. Like if you have most teachers are not going to teach calculus on this very abstract, level. General introductory calculus course is purely mostly time just going to be boiled down to very simple concepts for you to understand and to apply. I think the problem though with calculus is we treat a lot of times, like I was talking about, like the walking, right? a lot of students are just not prepared for calculus. And so they get to calculus and they're like, they struggle because they don't have the foundation to help them. It's just like walking. If you've never crawled or never gotten out of your crib, like you're not going to learn how to walk. You're going to fall, right? You're going to fail. But if you've practiced over and over, practicing like walking, little steps, time comes to get to calculus or for you to walk on your own, you're going to be just fine, you know? So I think it really just comes down to the foundation. Some students think like, you know, whenever I had students that were struggling in calculus, I'd have like sophomores and juniors struggling in calculus. I'm like, you're okay. Like I didn't take calculus till my sophomore year in college. Like that's when I was ready to take calculus. I was ready sophomore year of calculus. Some people are ready for calculus sophomore year of high school. That's fine. That's them. Some people can walk at 12 months. I don't know, right? Some people can walk. I don't know why I said 12 months, 2 months. Whatever, I don't know. Some people can walk at 12 months. Some people can walk at 30 months. Like it's, give yourself time. Not everybody's the same. Hey, Ms. McLogan, my pet peeve as a student is when other students say, is there a retake? Well, it'll be a retake it when they haven't even done it in the first time. Yeah, I'd get that. I mean, I can definitely understand, especially if you studied your butt off, you worked really hard, you got a grade, and then a student struggles, gets like a C, but they're, oh, is there a retake? They do the retake and they don't really study. They didn't really put in the effort the first time, but then they put in a little bit more effort the next time because now they kind of know what to do. And then they get like the same C. Like that's not equal. That's not fair. I get it. And that's very frustrating. Hi, Brian. Just want to thank you. During my COVID, my teacher recorded his lessons on his whiteboard and they would be unreadable. If it wasn't for your videos, I would not have a clue how to do algebra. Well, you're very welcome. Happy to be able to help you out. Any tips for doing math videos? I'm using an iPad with a pencil while screen recording. I like that idea. I mean, I think that's perfectly fine. Like, yeah, I mean, work with what you have available. Like when I first started making videos, like I was teaching inside the classroom, right? So, and there's videos of people on their iPad on their phone doing math videos that cheap as can be and millions of views, right? You don't need very, very expensive equipment and everything else to go and get started. Get started, make some math videos. And like, as like Mr. Beast says, like as money comes in, just keep on reinvesting in your channel and doing better, right? I think the only thing I would encourage you to think about is like, just don't try to replicate any style that you see on YouTube. If you already seen a whole bunch of those videos, like I remember when I first started doing YouTube, Patrick JMT, he always did like on a paper and pencil and he did with a pen, right? So I was like, oh, well, his videos had like thousands and hundreds of thousands of views. I'm like, that's what I need to do. But it's like, no, that wasn't me. Like, don't mimic people on that. Like, make your own type style of content and just keep on reinvesting. Get help. Find a group that's going to help support you to get that A, that you can ask questions, that you can do your homework with, that you can study with to go with that A. Don't do this alone don't do this alone. Find a group, find a study partner that you can work with that's going to help you accomplish that A. Yeah, just takes time. No statistics question. Sorry. How would you recommend learning from a textbook? How do we absorb and understand it? I have econ and it's math heavy and the professor is kind of whack. Yeah, I think one thing I found from learning from textbooks, because when I was in high school, we didn't have math videos. So I had to learn from a textbook. And I remember there'd be a lot of times where there'd be gaps in the textbook of the teaching. And like, I just didn't understand it. It's like that's why like teaching can be like very helpful. So one thing I'd recommend is probably having like 2 or 3 textbooks or at least like information to like help supplement. And I think, obviously you want to follow the text. That's what's going on in your course. That's most important. But I think there's also really a value of having a supplement. And I never knew that textbooks could vary as widely as they were until I became a teacher. And then I got access to like all the different publishers were giving us textbooks to like adopt, for our school. And I started looking through, I'm like, wow, some of these would be like, this is an amazing textbook, or these are amazing examples that I was just only so used to like what I was given, So I think it's really, really helpful to have some different points of view. And like, again, you can supplement them with like online videos or, online website as well. But I think having at least like 2 to 3 different materials that's teaching the exact same concepts, but is coming from a different perspective is going to help you, especially when you are working through your content and you're feeling some gaps or you're having some questions. You have something else to rely on. Let's go. We have a test which you take skip a year in math, pre-calc algebra 2, and my plan for juniors to go straight into AP Calc. So I guess you passed, or you take that test where you just skip a year of math, either pre-calc or algebra 2. I mean, everybody's different. So I would rather you take it online as like a double course, or take it during the summer as like a condensed than just purely skipping it. But, cause like a test, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd have to see how the test is, but like, I guess maybe the test is going to be, identifying your aptitude. And if you're able to having that and they feel like you're going to be good enough with a passing grade to go into AP Calculus, I guess, that's what they've set up. So that's what they've created. So good. I don't love the idea for most students, but again, I have no idea of, your circumstance, where you're at. The only thing I would say is like most students, like math is not a race, so don't feel like, and obviously if you're trying to get it to skip a class to be able to take a certain course or like whatever you're trying to do, like it makes sense. But for a lot of students, some students just want to take it because they just want to be like first. So they just want to compare against other kids. And then they miss content and information because they're so focused on getting everything done as quickly as they can. And it ends up burning them later in life. But again, that's speaking in generalities, not specifics. I would speak with your parents, your teacher, and your guidance counselor to identify what's the best route for you. I'm going to plan to stay in the tune for a stream for a long time. I ask a lot of questions. I just don't mind because I have more. Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Hey, man, I'm actually literally so thankful for stuff. Hey, man, I'm literally so thankful that you got stuff that I'm actually studying for right now. And we don't believe how much you're helping. Well, awesome. So happy to help you out. Yeah, I think Indian education they have high standards, and I like that about them. For at least what I see and at least what I know. Very, very surface level understanding. But I think it's really good to have a really high standard. And I think when you have the standard highs, it's much easier to help people along to get to that standard rather than like lowering the standard and having everybody being able to pass, in that regard. So I think it's good. I think it's helpful. At least in my surface level understanding. I've had a ton of great students. You can't ask that question. That's like asking a parent their favorite child. Like I've had amazing students, all walks of life, all different circumstances, every grade level. I'd say the students that always made me smile the most were the ones that struggled, but they kept on working. They didn't give up, and they might have found success during the school year. They might not have. They might have found success later in life and reached out to me. It's just those that struggled, but they went through it. And that's what I talked about in the beginning of this live stream. Like going through a struggle is helpful. It's beneficial, and you can go through a struggle and still get an A. You can go through a struggle and fail, but it's like the getting back up and going through that and seeing your success. Like that's what I love about teaching. That's what I miss about teaching. And that's what I love about seeing, students grow. But if you're not getting those struggles, they're not fun. But if you're not getting them, it's hard to really get the most out of your education. Yeah. I like to do the exact same problem. Like have a problem with like all the problem, like written down, like step by step, cover it, and then just try to do it again. And then take it out, see if you got it right. You got it right. Cool. Move on to another problem. If you got it wrong, look at where you got it wrong on yours. Take a new sheet of paper, cover back up, and try to do the problem again. Like that's a great, study tip to be able to practice problems. Do problems you got wrong on your test, and then do problems you also got right, and go through those motions again. So I think that's a great way to kind of redoing problems. As long as you know the answer that you're redoing, you have the correct answer and the solution, worked out solution in front of you to work on. Do you think if people pay money for college that they deserve good teachers? Well, good teachers is very subjective. What might be a good teacher for one student might not be a good teacher for another student. So I don't think you're ever going to meet that standard because it is so subjective. But obviously I think having the qualifications to be a good teacher is going to be something that important. And, I think most universities, that's what they aspire to have. Not just in the, and not just having on the credentials, but, having a review process for, you know, students to be satisfied with the teacher's ability and teacher's expertise. I don't think I skipped your question. I don't even know what you're talking about. But can you please give me a quick tutorial on finding limits on the graph evaluation? Yes, I might have. I didn't even skip it, but I don't cover math problems on from the chat. So if you want a tutorial on a quick tutorial on finding limits of the graph evaluation, then I will have to say that is going to be at brianmclogan.com/Q&A. Submit your question there, and then you can go to the free math videos portion of the stream, and I'll go from there. Well, thank you so much, Azan. Happy to be a help. I'm going to be a math major. What's the best way to figure out my holes in my math knowledge? How do I fix them? Get somebody to challenge you. I mean, it's one thing I found that was really helpful was going back. I always kind of created this, like, it was embarrassing for me to like go back through earlier math. But one thing I've really found is like that one that was helpful because I understood like so many things I didn't understand that I thought I knew. But I can even say that, like, even going back through some older textbooks or relearning some stuff, you're like, oh, I already know how to do this. But if you relearn it and look at like different texts or videos and just like, I think just being immersed in math education and like math content, you'll start to see things, how people taught it differently than how you understood it. And it might not be a technical gap in your understanding or your knowledge, but you'll see different approaches and it'll help things click or things come together. So I would just immerse yourself in content, even if stuff that you already know, just watching how people are explaining things or how they're viewing things can help things better come together for you. And if there was a hole or a gap in your knowledge, then that will hopefully fill it as well. All of them, all math is important. At least for me, when I taught it, I usually the pre-calculus was taught at a higher level than I'd say the AP Calc. But I think the only reason is because if you went through AP Calc, you had the pure foundation for calculus. Like you went through the gauntlet to be prepared. And what happens a lot of times where students they didn't go through the gauntlet in Algebra 2 to be prepared for pre-calculus. So they just kind of showed up thinking, oh, like I'm good in Algebra 2, and then they weren't prepared for pre-calculus. But once they went through pre-calculus, had all that struggle, they were prepared for pre-calculus. And that's the main thing. To be successful in the class is being prepared for that class. All right. Augustus. I don't know. I might not have been able to get to that. Okay, I guess I'll say this. I want to study theoretical physics. I try to understand the reasoning at a deeper level. I got an A in mechanics and Calc 1. Should I be discouraged that only the elites succeed at theoretical physics? I mean, no. Like I said, we're not all in the same time lane. Don't be discouraged. Keep on working at it. You might not be able to get it, at the same timeline. That's perfectly fine. I remember a lot of my classes when I was in my math was like, a lot of them were like all math majors. And I'm like, I feel like the biggest dummy in this class. Cause I'm in my advanced math classes and I'm like, all these people are smarter than me. And like, I'm trying to be a math teacher and like, they're math majors, but it's like, I had to just keep on working harder. And like, there was things that they were just much better at naturally. But like, I remember some of the classes, like I worked my butt off in some of these classes and I remember some of these kids, like they dropped out of the class because they couldn't handle it. And I know they were smarter or got better grades than I did, but I was working hard. I did what I needed to do. And some of them, like they just, I guess maybe took it for granted, like, knew they had some natural ability and didn't put in the effort and work. And eventually like I got better grades and I stayed with the class and, passed. Whereas they like dropped out because once the going got tough, they couldn't handle it. So, no, man. I mean, it might not be right for you. I don't know. But I wouldn't say don't get discouraged. I mean, you're going to have struggles and there's going to be people that are always smarter and better, or you think they're always smarter and better than you, but do the best you can. Put in your work and just keep on going at it. Like I said, we're not on the same time lane. So don't compare yourself to others. Just keep focusing on you and what you're able to do. Awesome. I love it. Love that story. If I'm going to pick on level pre-calc, then I would need to study for AP Calc. We'll go for it. You got it. Yes, majority. Like, I mean, I didn't do open book tests. I would give them like a cheat sheet. But I mean, it all depends on the questions and what type of test you're devising for your students. Like, you can't create the same test as an open book and a closed book. So you have to create different styles of questions. But yeah, I think I can think they'd be just as effective. And actually, I basically did open book tests for my last like 5 years of teaching. It was just easier, less stress for the students, and it helped them prepare and study more, knowing that they had that open book. But yeah, I had to change the way the tests were. I couldn't just give like easy basic problems that they like regurgitation from our test. Like they had to know what they were doing. Let's get a fail math course in college. I passed with an A when I took it. That's awesome. But I have the sense of regret over it since that assessor. I mean, no, man, we all sometimes need more time to be able to understand and interpret things. I had not really the best grades for math, despite practicing a lot. Practice more. Yeah, I mean, just because you're practicing a lot or putting a lot of effort studying doesn't mean that you're automatically going to get grades. Maybe find a tutor or a study partner that can maybe help fill in some of those understandings and make sure that you're doing the proper studying for you. I teach online, but not inside the classroom. That's awesome, Ethan. I'm really proud of you. All right, guys, I am going to head out for this week. Hopefully you guys have an excellent week, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.